Turn it up.
Streaming online at WDKN.com.
I love listening to it over and over. I love it.
This is 101.5 The One and WDKN Dickson's Country Music Home.
You're listening to The Old Timers Show, presented by RFC Broadband on Dickson's only live and local station, 101.5 The One and WDKN. Now, here's your host.
Good morning and welcome to the Old Timers program here on WDKN. It is Saturday, April the 30th, and we are live from the downtown Dickson studios. We appreciate everybody tuning in this morning. I've got a great show for you. I've got Mr. Jimmy Barber here in the studio with me, and we've been in here for a few minutes, and we've already been talking about some things. And Mr. Barber, you know a lot of things about downtown Dickson. Thank you for coming in this morning.
My memory's still working good.
Yes, it is.
So things 50 years ago, 100 years ago, nearly.
Well, so you're a longtime Dickson resident.
All time.
Tell us about the earliest days. Go all the way back for me.
Well, we were just talking about the old days when the big black steam engines came through Dickson, and I was just a little small boy. I'd go down to the tracks down there and meet the train, and we'd take the Tennessean paper off of the trains and fold them and go across the street to the paper office and roll them. We rolled them, and you could throw that thing 50 yards after it was rolled, and threw them on the front porches of people's houses, you know, at 5 o'clock in the morning. And this town was just a hub of activity here. Early in the morning, Saturday morning, it's like a ghost town out there now. Will be till 10 o'clock, but Saturday mornings, the horses and buggies and farmers were coming into town with their wives to go grocery shopping and go to the flour mill and here at Dickson on Church Street, and they would have their wheat and corn ground into meal, and the brand name of it was Redbird. I remember that well. And I'm talking about back in the 30s, and I was a small boy then, and then the cars, there was what few cars there was around here and pickup trucks, they were running up and down the streets. It was just jammed with people. You couldn't believe it, and that went on till 9 o'clock at night, every night. The restaurants were open, and we had 5 or 6 restaurants right downtown. All of them served meat and 3 meals for 25 and 30 cents for meat and 3 and a glass of tea. It was 25, 30 cents back then. But anyway, it's things have changed a lot here. And
well, it's. I remember maybe 20 years ago when downtown Dickson was really quiet. Now it's getting a little bit more active these days. We've got a lot of new businesses coming in and things like that, but you're saying it's still not anywhere near what it was in the good old days.
Well, it's at night down here now, they tell me, I'm not hardly ever here at night, but it's wide open. They have a lot of activity going on down here at night now. They've got restaurants back here, food and liquor stores, and the restaurants serve liquor and beer, and they've got activity back down here now. But during the years that we operated the furniture store on Main Street, it went just to a ghost town here. By 2006, when I closed the furniture store up, we'd been in business for about 70 years then, and me and my dad, and we just closed it up. It's just nothing. And
yeah.
But now they've poured a lot of money into it and changed a lot of laws and things, and got this activity going, and it's back busy now like it used to be.
Yeah, it's a little more exciting now.
Oh yeah.
So tell me a little bit. So you said the furniture store was in business for 70 years. How did you and your dad? Tell me a little about your dad. How did that get started?
Well, right on the corner down here next to where the Luther Plumbing Company is, down right behind where we are now on Mulberry Street. He started in a little old building there and just started selling worse looking stuff, furniture and old mattresses and furniture and everybody. We didn't have natural gas here, and nobody heated with electricity at all, and everybody burned coal or wood for heat and cooking and everything. Very few people had electric stoves even, and so that he started selling those old used things for 50 cents and 25 cents and stuff in that old building down there, and gradually it just got better and better and better, and eventually he got into selling new furniture and appliances, and so we did that for many, many years, and we wound up upon Main Street where the gold post is and now, and but that was a long drag through those years, but it all looked like it just passed overnight.
So, Mr. Jimmy, I was telling you before the show started that I'm a teacher over at the Dickson County High School, and I know a lot of members of your family that I've gone to school with, or maybe that I teach and things like that. I always want to ask the guests what school was like for them growing up. So what can you tell me about going to school here in Dickson as a young man?
I started into the first grade over here at Old Oakmont School on Walnut Street there, where those apartments are now on Walnut Street. And I started in there in 1939, fall of 1939. I started the school there, and we had 2 classes of the first grade is all we had. And that was the only grade school in Dickson here then. And I went to school there, and I started in 39, and I think it was 1942, I was in the 2nd grade, and the building caught fire one night and burned, but only half of it burned down, and they fixed up the back half of it that didn't burn, and I went there until I was in the 6th grade there. After the 6th grade, I went over to the old high school over on Academy Street over here, and that's gone now. It's tore down, but there's a school back there now that I don't know what they call it now.
Dickson Middle School.
Middle School. Well,
yeah.
Okay. Middle school there on those grounds, and that's all we had in Dickson was those 2, the high school there and Oakmont grade school, just 2 schools there.
Wow.
That's all we had.
That's probably hard for a lot of people to realize, that just those 2 schools, because now we have, several schools. They're talking about building more schools, and we just keep expanding here in Dickson.
Yes.
Well, we're live on the radio this morning with Mr. Jimmy Barber, who's been lifelong Dickson resident, business owner, done a lot of things here in town. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. We're going to come back and talk some more about the good old days with Mr. Jimmy Barber right here on the Old Timers program, WDKN.
Let's talk about your internet options in this area. Cable internet, cell phone internet, and the phone company. Does that cover it? And not everybody has all 3 options. So if you're looking to make a change, try RFC Broadband, a local business right here in Dickson, offering the speeds you need at prices you can afford with no data caps. 615-375-8662 or rfcbroadband.com.
In times of joy, in moments of grief, broadcasters come through, even when all else fails. Today, with more ways than ever to experience the moments that transform our lives, Americans still choose broadcast radio and television more than all other media combined. We are the local broadcasters of radio and television, reaching more people, touching more lives. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Let's face it, life looks a little different. During these times, we're doing our best to keep our minds and bodies strong. And getting a flu shot helps us stay healthy, so we don't miss out on what matters. Like having game night at home. Yeah, can't do that while sick with the flu. Now imagine family movie night that your daughter can't live without. Well, that's ruined. And don't forget your uncle's socially distanced cookout. See, that's why it's important to be at our strongest. Every year, millions of people in the U.S. get the flu. Especially now, no one has time to miss out on moments that matter. So get your flu shot. Find out more at getmyflushot.org. Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
And we're back here on the Old Timers program here on WDKN, and I've got Mr. Jimmy Barber here in the studio with me, and Mr. Barber has been a lifelong Dickson resident and done a lot of things here. And I noticed, sir, that you've got on a hat,
Yes.
U.S. Army, and you were in the service. Will you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I was drafted during the Korean War, and I was 20 years old, and I got on the bus and went for a day, all day and half of the night to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and I took basic training there, and then I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and that's where I got stuck. I didn't get to go overseas or anything. I wanted to. I was young and single and wanting to go somewhere, but no, I had to stay there. And but Dickson, World War II changed things up in Dickson immensely here.
Yeah.
They had soldiers. They activated the 11th Airborne Regiment and stationed it at Fort Campbell over here, and it became a big, huge military base. And those soldier boys, they were over here every night. Of course, the town had liquor and restaurants and females and what have you here then. And the jukeboxes were tinkling at night, and people were in fist fights, and had two policemen, I think. they were doing the best to try to keep the peace, but it was rowdy days back in those days, and that was they had liquor stores here in Dickson and served beer in the restaurants, and it was just it all was wide open, and that was like that as far back as I can remember. It was like that, but we didn't have the soldiers here then. They were over here, and the girls liked them, and everything was merry times here then.
Well, I've always wondered what it was like around here during World War II. I've read some different stories. There's the story of the young boy John Carlos Baker who was out searching for scrap metal, and unfortunately, there was an accident there. But what he was doing was he was out collecting scrap metal, and they would use that for the war effort. And I've always just kind of been interested in what things were like around here during this time.
I know John Carlos Baker. I knew him. I was going to school with him. That happened when I think when we were in maybe the second grade, and maybe Carlos was I think he was a year ahead of me in school.
I've talked to his sister a little bit about this.
Norma.
Yeah. She kind of let me know, but he was a good young man, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he was a nice fella. Yeah, a real nice young kid. And we were gathering scrap iron up that day. I brought some to school that day myself, and that was he was carrying this long piece of pipe for the scrap effort, and it hit a electric line up over him, and it electrocuted him just right on the spot. And that was the very first real tragedy that I can remember. And I was in the second grade then, and but I remember that very well. I remember the day very well.
It was a tough time around here.
Yes, it was. And everything went rationed. Food was rationed, and you had to have coupon books. If you went to the grocery store, you could only get so much of this and so much of that, and gasoline was rationed, and tire rubber for tires. That's how the recapping business got blooming, because they took old tires and recapped them. Any old tire you could find, you could sell that thing practically if it wasn't just tore all to pieces.
Yeah.
I gathered scrap up myself all during the war years and hunted for it.
It seems like everybody was just all in. Anything anybody could do.
Anything you could do. Yeah. Anything you could do. I lost track of a lot of my classmates. We were in grade school, and when the war started, the good jobs opened up in Michigan and Indiana and Illinois. All those plants up there went to the war effort, building airplanes and tanks and guns and what have you for the war effort. And I lost track of a lot of my childhood friends, and I don't ever know what ever happened to them. They moved off during those years.
And I guess they probably, never came back. Some of them.
Some of them never came back. That's right.
Well, that was an interesting time. What was it like when the war ended, going into the 50s? What was things like around here during that time?
It was still going pretty good around here. We didn't have any plants. We only had like Henry I. Siegel down here, and right next to you here, the Red Cap plant. It wasn't Red Cap. We just called it the shirt factory. They made shirts there, made pants over at across the railroad track at Siegel Company. And women could get a job. The men had to work in the sawmills, and we had A.H. Leathers Manufacturing Company here. They manufactured handles, wooden handles for hammers, and from hammer handles to every kind of handle, and baseball bats, and everything over at Leathers Manufacturing. And I hung around over there all the time. My grandfather had an old horse and wagon. He hauled wood all over town. And that's where I worked when I was about 8 years old. I started helping him do that, and it was still busy. And up the 50s, they began. Some of the plants began coming in here in the 50s. We got one in here like this Tensco plant over here bloomed out of 50s and 60s. That's when it came into here, and they hired, and then they started building New Johnsonville Steam Plant, which they've torn down now, and they started. Had DuPont came in with a plant down there. They started getting plants down there, so everything started getting moving up.
Well, so after the war, it sounds like things started really taking off, and it got more and more busy around here. One thing I want to ask you, I want to get a chance to ask you before you go here, is a little bit about the goalpost. It's a staple here in town now, and I know that my understanding is that Barber Furniture started first.
Yeah.
And tell me kind of how that evolved, because guys like me, we just grew up. It's a goalpost was always there. It's where we went to get our sporting goods and our T-shirts for Little League ball, and I just always kind of wondered the origin of the place.
Well, I had a ongoing furniture business up there, furniture and appliance business. It was really, really good. The furniture was good, business was good, and the appliance business was good. We were just buying truckloads of appliances and trailer truckloads of furniture, and I bought another building, a warehouse building, just to fill it up, to keep those two buildings filled up on Main Street. And we were busy, and then all of a sudden, Lowe's came in out here with a big appliance store, and Nashville had these huge big box furniture stores up there. They were advertising no payment for 3 years and staying open all night and no interest on payments and all of that come on stuff. That's all it was come on. You went up there, you really got hosed, I'll tell you, with those deals, because people told me about it. They come back complaining about it, but and things started slowing down with us, and Jeff was working for me. All my sons were working for me, and things started slowing down so slow, I didn't have nothing for Jeff to do, and a boy started a little business across the street, right close to where we are now, a little bitty small business of screen printing, and he started that little business up there, and then I don't know what the circumstances was, but Jeff started hanging around over there. He liked him. His name was Barber also, and he was a nice fellow, a real nice guy, and I liked him. And Jeff started hanging around over there, and when he didn't have anything to do at the furniture store, and finally he just kind of went over there and stayed over there. And I said, well, good, because I said, I don't have enough business here to pay you much. And then I told him, I said, I don't know why you want to mess around with that nickel and dime business, painting a T-shirt, I said, it's not going to go anywhere. We were still doing like hundreds of thousands of dollars in furniture then. And he said, well, I like it. And so the boy moved off, wanted to shut the business down, and he just gave it to Jeff and walked out.
Wow.
And just said, you can just take out what's here and go with it. And Jeff said, okay. So he started that then, and he just grew and grew and grew. He was working 24 hours a day over there, I think, doing it, and he started growing, and my furniture business was shrinking. And finally, I just let him have one of my buildings over there, and I kept one, and that went on for a long time, and he just kept growing and growing. And by 2006, we were hemorrhaging money up there, losing money, and so I told him, I said, you can take both of the buildings, and I'm out of here. So I closed the furniture store up and paid everybody I owed off, and everybody thought I was going to go bankrupt, but I didn't. I paid everybody off, and I went home, and I kept one building downtown that I still sell used appliances out of. I work whenever I want to work, play golf when I want to play golf.
That sounds like a good way to be.
Well, it's pretty good now, but my wife's bed sick, and she's got disabled from the back surgeries, and can't move around very much now. But we're still kicking on.
Well, let's go ahead and get our last break in here, and we'll come back and wrap up the show. We got Mr. Jimmy Barber here telling us all about the old days of Dickson and all about how he started his different businesses. So we'll take our last break. We'll be right back here on WDKN.
Business internet is a must. Paying bills, sending emails, updating your website, running social media campaigns, even your phone and credit card machine need reliable internet. But your options are limited, and every provider has its drawbacks. That's why RFC Broadband for Business is here. A truly local business offering wireless high-speed internet options for your business. Affordable prices, no wires, no contracts, no data caps. RFC Broadband for Business, 615-375-8662 or rfcbroadband.com. Simple billing, rural coverage, and again, no contracts or data caps. It's all designed with you in mind. See the difference a local company makes. RFC Broadband for Business, 615-375-8662 or rfcbroadband.com. Currently not available in all areas. Call for availability.
In times of joy, in moments of grief, broadcasters come through, even when all else fails. Today, with more ways than ever to experience the moments that transform our lives, Americans still choose broadcast radio and television more than all other media combined. We are the local broadcasters of radio and television, reaching more people, touching more lives. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
All right, we're back on the air here on WDKN. We've only got a few more minutes. Talking to Mr. Jimmy Barber, I write newspaper stories, and last week I wrote a story about the Dixie Swatter baseball bat.
Yeah.
And so that was made over at the A.H. Leathers factory.
Yeah.
And this week's article, which hasn't come out yet, but I'll give everybody a preview, it's about golf in Dickson County and about the old country club that got started. My understanding from my research is around 1927. It was created out there. Tell me a little bit about that, because you said you know about that course.
I don't know about 1927, but I was out there in the early 40s when World War II started. My uncle lived next door to me, and I was about 8 years old and 7 years old when it started. And he started playing golf with some of the guys, prominent people around Dickson here, and some of them not very prominent. But anyway, they had a group that they played golf out there, and he always grabbed me to go caddy for him. I had to carry his bags. They paid 35 cents for 9 holes of golf, and it took all Sunday afternoon. We played on he played on Thursdays and Sundays. They closed the stores on Thursday for Victory Garden. You're supposed to take off on Thursday and raise a garden, raise your own vegetables and things in a garden. Yeah. But very few people did that. Anyway, he played golf, and I would go out there and caddy for him on Thursdays and Sundays. And the place was pretty woolly out there. It had a lot of sage-grass fields and briars and brambles and trees and everything, and wasn't nice like the golf course was when they closed it down.
Yeah.
And anyway, we played out there, and you'd make 35 cents for 9 holes if you didn't lose a ball.
Oh.
If they lost the ball, it was the caddy's fault, your fault, because you wasn't watching. Oh. And they would hit it in those sagegrass fields out there, and you couldn't find that ball. And but they'd all get on you, but pretty bad about it, and because golf balls were rationed, you couldn't buy any golf balls.
Oh, so
but if you could find a golf ball out there, and there was people hunting them all the time, a golf ball, a pretty good golf ball, would sell for about 25 cents, and 25 cents would buy you a meat and 3 plate lunch and a glass of tea, as we talked about a while ago, and a little piece of change like that, you buy a big hamburger for less, 15 cents. And but the golf course, a lot of people played out there, and it was nice those years. But and it gradually evolved and got better and better and better. And finally got 18 holes, just 9 holes then.
Yeah. I think back when I first started playing golf, it was still a 9-hole course. Then it expanded, of course, to 18. And then, unfortunately, I guess after they built the Greystone Golf Course, that was kind of the end of it. Yeah. And for those listening that may not know what we're talking about, it's Hensley Park now.
Yeah.
And they're working on a big, nice playground.
Totally wiped out.
So I really miss the old country club, though. That's where I learned how to play golf.
I do, too. We all do. All the guys, I'm still playing with a group. We all grew up. One of the boys grew up on the club out there. He lived there. Dad lived there, and but anyway, times change.
Well, thank you for coming on this morning. We're almost out of time. 30 minutes is just not enough sometimes, and I'd love to get you back on here to talk some more, maybe down the road in a few weeks or something. If you wouldn't mind coming back on and talking to me some more, I'd really appreciate it.
Well, I don't have an airplane to fly anymore, and I don't have a boat anymore, and reminiscing and talking about this stuff here is about all I got left to do other than play golf. I still play golf.
Well, good. I'm glad you do. And we'd love to have you back on the radio here anytime. So we'll make sure that we get you back soon. So thank you for coming on, Mr. Jimmy. We only touched the surface, I think, today. Mr. Dale Reagan's about to come in the studio here. He's up next, and I'll be back in 30 minutes for Know Your County, where I'll have Mr. Wesley Otts, who owns the Otts Barbecue, which operates over in Burns, Tennessee. He's going to come and talk to us this morning. So we'll be back in 30 minutes. We got Mr. Dale Reagan up next. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Old Timers program this morning.
In times of joy,